do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, there we go. Popped up in the corner. Bring me up the whole side. How are you, folks? Having a bloody good sort of a Thursday, isn't it? I don't know. I get lost with the days some days. Why? Because I'm spending a lot of nights doing a lot of weird, strange things, not necessarily sleeping, unfortunately. I am watching a lot of things happening with the bullion market as the world progresses. We are in historic times. What can I tell you? Ainslie Bullion today, right now, is trading at a spot price of $165.72, but you won't get an ounce of silver for $165.72 at Ainslie Bullion or anywhere else for that matter. Ainslie Bullion, as far as I have seen, are the cheapest ounces of silver that you can buy in the country at the moment. I've looked at a lot of bullion dealers in a lot of different parts of the country. And in some places like Hobart, for instance, you will pay in excess, or yesterday at least, you would have paid $215 for an ounce of silver. Now that's comparable to where Chinese money is sort of paying for silver at the moment, although they're paying in US dollars, so it's still well undervalued. But also I've seen videos put out by bullion dealers in various parts of the country. These are small dealers, obviously. They are announcing that they cannot get stock for some months. I noticed that one of the big bullion dealers in Sydney has put up a note that said if you want to buy, I can't remember, they were quite sizable bars, whether 100 or 1,000 ounce bars, I can't remember. But delivery wasn't expected until the end of March at the earliest. So delivery is tightening up around the country. And for those of you who ordered through ainslieBullion.com.au and you have been in that back order, I have some good news for you. I spoke to Michael Engerman this morning from Ainslie Bullion. They are rushed like never before. Unprecedented is how he described what's going on in bullion offices around the world. But Ainslie Bullion's offices in Melbourne, Brisbane and the Gold Coast are certainly no exception. There are people lined up out the door at all of the bullion offices everywhere in the country. You've probably seen pictures of people on the streets of Sydney. That is also happening in Brisbane. I don't know that they're out the street and down into the underground car park quite yet at the Gold Coast, but they are certainly lining up there too. Get in early is my advice, rather than waiting until the afternoon. And there's a reason for that. Ainslie Bullion have announced they are going to tighten their day trading hours because they are simply unable, with the current amount of staff that they have, and they've been putting on staff almost constantly since they came back, they are unable to provide the service that they wish to provide to all Ainslie customers with the amount of time available every day and the amount of people. So they are limiting their opening hours in all of their offices, that's the Gold Coast, Brisbane and Melbourne, from 9 till 4. They're going back to 9 to 3 trading. So the doors will only be open from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon from next Monday until further notice. I can tell you that if you are going into an Ainslie office, can't vouch for the Gold Coast, but certainly Melbourne and Brisbane, if you are thinking of turning up at 3:30 in the afternoon and hoping to be seen before 4 o'clock when they ordinarily close their doors, you are going to be greeted by a line of people who are back up to the elevators, and you are not going to be seen that day. So if you're thinking you're going to turn up at 3:30, I wouldn't bother, because you're just not going to, they're not going to have enough time to see you and do everything else that they have to do when they close the doors. So bear that in mind. If you're going, go early. Otherwise, take full advantage of Ainslie's online service. where you can buy particularly and have it delivered. Now, people say, well, that's fine. What if I want to sell? What if I want to sell? Well, we've often spoken about having your silver in your hand. Obviously, a lot of people feel that's definitely the way to go. And I would agree. It's much better to have it in your hand than not have it in your hand. However, in times where there is this sort of volatile price changing in silver and gold bullion markets, I don't give financial advice, but my observations have been from personal experience only that there have been times where I've wished I might have been able to just make a phone call or send an email that says, listen, can you sell a bit of my silver and buy some gold with it? Or vice versa. I don't have any gold, but you understand the process. If I want to do that now, I have to go and take, my few coins into Ainslie Bullion, which means at the moment a 45-minute drive or longer, depending on which office I go to, and then probably at least that kind of a wait, if not longer, before I'm seen to be able to exchange my few bits of silver and try and trade it for a bit of gold. I've wasted half a day. I've got to meet some lovely people who are waiting in the queue with me. It hasn't been a wasted day by any stretch of the imagination. I shouldn't put it that way, but I could have maybe done better things with it. If that's you, then maybe you need to make one trip into your local Ainslie Bullion dealer and take a certain amount of silver in that you're prepared to put into unallocated silver, and that way you can then trade it just with a phone call or a email, and you can swap your silver out for the appropriate amount of gold or vice versa. You can do this with the token system using crypto as well, and I urge you to go and have a look at Vince's show on FBN, the CoinSpot show, where Coin Toss show, I beg your pardon, where he spoke with Matt from Ainslie Bullion recently, and they spoke about how they have been able to tokenize gold and silver to enable you, pardon me, to buy tokenized gold and silver through crypto sales. You can also trade your gold and silver back into crypto or into cash or vice versa, all those sorts of things. So it's a great way if you've got a bit of crypto. You can trade in that token space, and you don't have to be lined up in a queue to do any of it. You do it all through the Ainslie portal. I have also discovered that using your Ainslie Saver account can also work this way. Now, you've heard me talk about the Ainslie Saver account, and I'm embarrassed to admit that up until 2 days ago, I hadn't started it. I hadn't started one. I've been telling you for a year to go and do it. But I received an email from somebody the other day that touched me deeply, and I passed that on to Ainslie Bullion as well. I haven't got permission to read it out for you, but what I will do is paraphrase it. And it basically said, I'm on a carer's pension, so I don't get very much money. I heard about you talking about the Ainslie Saver account just after it started, and I joined it. I've been putting in, I think it was $100 a fortnight since then. And I looked in my account today to find that I had over $6,000 worth of gold and silver to my name. They hadn't put $6,000 in the bank. They'd put $2,600 maybe. But there was $6,000 in the bank. Now, it's a great way to fractionally buy gold and silver. If you can't afford the $7,827 an ounce for gold that it currently is, and that's the spot price. If you were going to go and buy an ounce of gold, let me just flip to an ounce of gold and see what it says. That's a tenth. That's a bit cheap. That's 10 ounces. That's a bit much. A half an ounce. We're getting there. It's platinum. 1 ounce of Ainslie gold bullion, $7,981.47. So pretty good sort of a price. don't don't think it's going to be long before it busts through $8,000 an ounce, folks. But you may not have $8,000 to plow into an ounce. But what you might have is $50 a week, $50 a fortnight, $100 a month, whatever you can put in. I think the minimum at this stage is $50. And you can put it in whenever you like. It doesn't have to be a recurring payment. If you just want to put $50 in like I did, put $50 in, and you don't know when you'll have $50 to put in again, but let's see what it does. You might get a shock like I did. And I spoke with Becky O about all this yesterday, Becky O from Truth Seekers. She got pretty excited, and she opened an Ainslie Saver account too. And in fact, she got so excited, she got her son Mitchell, who's only 16, to open up his Ainslie Saver account. It might help if I put the microphone here, do you think? She got Mitch to open up his Ainslie Saver account, and he deposited in all his savings, which was a considerable amount, 800 plus bucks. He went and had a look at the Ainslie Saver account, and he was a bit deflated because he found he was missing $115. And I got to admit, when I got the phone call about it, I was a bit confused to think, well, hang on, I know they don't charge that sort of fees, so I'm a bit confused as to where this money could have gone. What happens when you have an Ainslie Saver account, or if you go with the tokenized Bitcoin sort of crypto version of this, is you will get an account balance. So if you put $50 in, you might find that your account balance is $46, let's say, as a guess. Why did you lose $4? It wasn't because the system charged you admin fees or anything weird. Your full $50 was used to buy gold and silver, whichever way you chose to buy. You can choose to spend your $50 as 70% gold and 30% silver, or 50-50, or whatever you choose to see the split. That's how it'll be divided up. But you will get $50 of, if you choose all gold, then gold, or all silver, then all silver, or half and half, then half and half, $50 of it. But your account balance will show $46. Why? Well, if you were to try and sell that fractionalized piece of gold and silver that you just bought for $50 back to Ainslie, that is the price they would pay you for it. So that is what you would get physically in your hand if you tried to sell it back to them the moment you bought it off them. Not right. So on a little bit of further reflection today, and given the way that silver prices have gone today, and we'll talk about those in a second, I think Mitch will find that he has exceeded, or maybe not quite exceeded yet, become very close to balancing, so to speak, his deposit, and is very definitely in profit, because now I think if he was to sell the fraction that he bought yesterday, it would be worth more than $800. And that's because today has been simply bloody crazy on the old intrawebs. The markets have been doing some pretty wild things all day, and I'll bring this up and give you a bit of a show of what's happening at the moment. The market is still open. You can see we're looking at silver here. It is showing the current US price here of $116.6, but up the top, the little red thing up the top beside the squiggly line, 165.61. That is the current trading spot price for silver in the world. The trading spot price for gold is $5,500 US, which is another all-time high. That's $7,794 Australian, nearly $96, nearly $97 Australian. The US dollar has taken quite a hit today as well, and that consequently has left the Australian dollar in a slightly stronger position. Now, I don't know what that really means to you, me, and the gatepost. 70 cents at the Australian dollar, currently worth nearly 71 cents versus the US dollar. The US dollar is going to crash. The Australian dollar will gain some value against that. I don't know how that will help you in the long run, because it's all fiat paper crap. I would be prepared to take all the fiat paper crap that they're going to throw at you and turn that into something a little more solid, and hang on to it. And that would be my considered story. That's what I'm going to do. Hang on to it as long as I possibly can. You do what you like. Don't take my advice, and certainly don't trust my maths. Do it for yourself. The gold-silver ratio, 47.2 at the moment. May as well say 47.3. A lot of people are taking the opportunity of picking up the phone or sending me an email and saying, look, should I be selling my silver now? Should I? And I've been thinking about selling some silver and trying to get a little bit of gold. But unless you can buy ounces, and that's even still not the cheapest way to buy gold, you need to buy a lot of ounces before it becomes cheaper. So buying sort of things like a 100th troy ounce piece, which is paper thin, wafer thin, you can almost see through them. But you know, you can pick one of those up for less than $100, I think, at the moment, $94 and $95. You can buy, you know, 10th of an ounce, 20th of an ounce, quarter ounce, half ounce, all those kinds of things. I find I would lose something like that, or I fear I would lose something like that. So that's where I think this fractional buying thing is worth really looking at, and particularly if you, you know, you don't have a lot of spare money, and it doesn't happen every week, but you know, maybe once a month you do have $50 left over. You would be amazed the benefit that $50 could bring. And one of the stories I'll tell you is I've been approached in the last two weeks. Someone wanted me to help them sell, or offered for me to buy, a 100-ounce bar of silver. At the time, the price for that and a coin or two or something else that went along with it, which was this person's entire silver collection, they needed to pay bills. It was car registration. It was something else. Now, car rego, call that $1,000, and probably, you know, something to do with mortgages or rent, call that another few $1,000s maybe. The price of the bar at that time, if Ainslie were to buy it back, was about $13,900, thereabouts. I organised some people who said they would be interested in paying what was asked and, you know, trading it all over, maybe helping out, providing a little trade of silver and cash so that she wasn't out of the silver market completely, this lady. I hope that she found another way, because in the 2 weeks since all that sort of happened, that same bar has picked up $7,000 in value. Now, the reason I tell you this story is because even having a little bit of silver at the moment makes a big difference. And all indications are, while a pullback, and Michael from Ainslie Bullion, the CEO, who you'd imagine knows much more intelligent people than me in this regard, he warned me this morning. He said there will be a pullback, Carl, and it will be a strong pullback. He said, I don't know when it will be. He said, I've picked it twice for it to come twice, and it's those times have come and gone without there being a pullback at all. So the market is not working towards or working along the lines of what people would historically think. It is behaving differently, but it's also showing signs of similarity. Just on the scale is what is different. Okay, so the massive uplifts on a daily basis and the massive drops. So we saw 2 days ago that the price lifted to $117 US an ounce and plummeted back down to 103. Now, it's taken 2 days to recover, but we are now, what were we showing there before, 117 again? It's been at 118 most of the day. So new high reached today. At the moment, it's at 115, 116 US dollars. Now, that's indicating there's a bit of downward pressure on it at the moment. Is it going to go and plummet and drop 20 to 30%? They were the figures that Michael Engerman quoted me this morning. This pullback, or a pullback, the big pullback, could be 20 to 30%. That's nothing to freak out about. He said it's a natural event and it should be expected. So those people who are what we're calling riding the bull will be watching for signs of that event. And the market has shown that. If you are very edgy and thinking, oh, look, I want to sell all my silver before it all drops price, and you happen to be watching that ticker that I showed you earlier, which you can pick up for free, by the way, at tradingview.com. And there's a little hamburger over on the left-hand side of the screen, 3 lines. Click on that. You'll get products in a menu. Click on the products and get super charts. And that's the thing that'll pop up in front of you, and just select gold and silver and make them on your watch list, and that's easy. You can keep an eye on it yourself. But you could drive yourself crazy if you are nervous about missing out on the gains that you've already got. Because if you were watching the other day and it hit at $117 US and you had paid effectively, $30 US for your coins or your silver, that is a hell of a great, depending on how much of you got, a great windfall. And you might have thought when you saw it start to plummet, and over the course of an hour it dropped $15 an ounce, you might have started to sell. Most of you, I don't think, did. Most of you are clever enough not to, because while it did go down, it bounced back again. It had recovered most of what it had lost, or at least over half of what it had lost by the end of trading that day. And since then, it's just been steadily stepping up. It'll grow a bit, fall a bit, grow a bit further, fall a bit less, grow a bit further, fall a bit less. So stick with it, folks. It's riding the bull, up, down, and all around. And it's very exciting times. While I don't offer advice, I have been asked my thoughts on if you're going to take your silver or gold out of silver and gold, you're going to put it back into fiat and do something with it. I've been asked, what should I do with it? Or what should you do with it? Look, that really depends on you. If you don't have to access your gold and silver at the moment, I wouldn't for any reason. But if you happen to have enough of it right now, given that the whole market has gone the way it's gone, and what used to be, call it a modest silver holding, has now grown into an exceptional silver holding, then I would suggest, no, I wouldn't suggest, I don't make suggestions, but if I was in that position and I owned a house, I would look at selling some of that windfall silver and gold money to pay the house off. That then becomes a tangible earning asset for you, like the gold and silver is. Using a house or using something, if you invest your gold and silver earnings into something else that is going to earn for you, then I would think it's probably a reasonable discussion to have in your circumstances. But if you're going out to buy a new car just because you can, and you want to go and buy some flash car just because you can, well, all well and good, but be prepared. That car isn't going to earn value unless, of course, it is a collectible or, has something of historic value or whatever. Now, there are plenty of great collectible cars, and it is a great way to store your wealth in other ways. It's a bit like art. You can invest in paintings and all that sort of stuff if they are going to appreciate. And I don't know enough about art or cars to advise you on either. Not that I give advice, but don't take your winnings and think I'm going out for a big night at the RSL and shove them down a pokey, for God's sake. Don't take them to a car yard unless you are in desperate need of a reliable vehicle, and you don't have to have the latest Mercedes-Benz or the latest Audi. but you could get away with a good, reliable, second-hand Hyundai, then do it. Because you want to keep as much of your gold and silver earning for you as you can at the moment, because I think there's a lot more earning capacity in that than there is in land or anything else at the moment. Unless you can pay off your property, I would urge you to do that if that was a thing for you. Owning it, even if you don't really own it at this stage, is probably still better than having the banks have an interest in you at all. So if you can get the banks out of your life, get rid of all your debt, maybe. I'd be inclined not to spend my gold and silver on paying off debt. I'd be more inclined to put it into something that is going to make money for me. And if I can't put it into something that's going to make money for me, leave it where it is, where it's doing what? Oh, yeah, it's making money for me. Just saying. Now, a whole heap of you, I know, took the advice and you bought some gold and silver. And right now, you're probably rubbing your hands together and you've just said, gee, Carl, that's probably reasonable advice you've just given me. I'm going to tell you to do something else now, completely against what I've just told you to do. But this will be a fun thing to do. You could, if you so chose, you could take a very small amount of the money you have accumulated through the advice that you've found through the Voice of Freedom and Cass and Vince and the rest of the team, and you could come and join us on a cruise in May. That's the cruise at the front of the show. I keep putting up. Now, we've got quite a little group coming. It's only a 4-day cruise. It's 13 or so $100 for a balcony room if you want something like that for 2 people. It's only 4 days up to Ainslie Beach and back. And we've got quite a little crew. Greg, Waptha, I won't go through everybody, but Alan and Connie are coming, and I'm trying to twist the arm of Sandy and Baz, although they have family commitments around different times further up north, so it's difficult. Oh, speaking of Sandy and Baz, I was speaking to her just before the show this evening. She wants to pass on her best to everybody. They have been flat out at the Sanctuary this week. She hasn't been able to get into the shows. Baz was out whippersnippering at 8 o'clock last night still. They're starting, at 3 o'clock in the morning and not finishing until 9 o'clock at the night at the moment. They are absolutely run ragged. Of course, at this time of year, a lot of their volunteers aren't volunteering because they're on holidays. So there is a fair bit to be done out there at the property at the moment. The Sanctuary is currently hosting, I think it's 108 donkeys. And I think there's 8 of those or 7 of those in care in the ICU, one of which is needing a fair bit of care. So Sandy's been heavily involved with that. We know, God love her, the big garage sale that was on over the Australia Day long weekend was of a moderate success. Sandy just basically says, I always pick days where it turns into 40-degree stinkers and everybody stays at home and sits in the air conditioning. So you never know. There still might be a bargain or 2 left if you want to contact Sandy through the Donkey Sanctuary and pick up something there. But she was pretty happy with the results at any rate. God love her. And we have sent off her share of the lottery winnings, so to speak. We do have, as you've probably seen, a new lottery running. $750 up for grabs once again. No silver this time round because we can't afford to give you the Byron Bobs. And in fact, Ainslie, I notice, have taken them off their website at the moment because it'll be a little while before they'll be able to stock the Byron Bobs again. That only adds to their value as far as I'm concerned. So bear that in mind. However, there is $750 up for grabs at merch.vofhq.com, $2 a ticket, and we do share the proceeds with Sandy from the Donkey Sanctuary. I said the Donkey Factory. It's a nasty slip of the tongue. I mentioned that Ainslie trading hours are going 9 till 3 from next Monday, so make sure you're in there for that. Now let's get into something that I found very interesting. Details of this little 1973 experiment. Perfectly healthy people, 8 of them, walked into different psychiatric hospitals across the United States. They were not ill, yet no one inside those walls was able to see it. It was an experiment, one of the most disturbing experiments in the history of psychiatry. designed by psychologist David Rosenhan. Gee, I wonder where he came from. It began with a simple yet unsettling question. Is it really possible to reliably distinguish mental health from mental illness? To find out, Rosenhan recruited 8 pseudo patients. They were ordinary people, a painter, a housewife, a pediatrician, a graduate student, so. They lied about only one thing. They all claimed to hear voices, nothing more, no bizarre behavior, no crises, just 3 words heard in their minds: empty, hollow thud. So all of them were admitted, and immediately afterwards they stopped pretending. They behaved normally. They cooperated. They asked to be discharged. That wasn't possible. The staff no longer saw people, but diagnoses. Every action was reinterpreted through the lens of illness: writing notes, obsessive behavior; standing in the hallway, pathological attention seeking; being polite, controlled behavior consistent with the disorder. 7 of them were labelled schizophrenic. 1 was diagnosed as manic depressive. Not one single one was recognised as healthy, not one. But the real patients noticed. Some approached and whispered, "You're not like the others. You don't belong here." They saw what the experts could not recognise. The average length of hospitalisation was 19 days. 1 person remained hospitalised for 52 days. Each passing day confirmed the same truth: the label was more powerful than the reality. When Rosenhan published the study on being sane in insane places, it caused an earthquake. The psychiatric community erupted in outrage. One hospital challenged Rosenhan to send new pseudo-patients, confident that they would expose them. He accepted, and in the following months, the hospital identified 41 supposed imposters. But Rosenhan had sent no one at all. The truth was now undeniable. Diagnoses were not always based on facts, but on content. Once labelled, a person became a prisoner of that narrative, even if they were sane, even if they protested the truth. This experiment shattered blind trust in clinical labels. It led to major reforms in the diagnosis and treatment of mental illness. But above all, it left a haunting and still relevant lesson. Perception can distort reality more than madness itself. And often, the most dangerous illusion is not that of those considered insane, but those who believe they are always right. 8 healthy people entered a psychiatric hospitals in 1973, and they came out carrying a truth the world could no longer ignore. That was 1973. Could you say that today our hospital experience wouldn't be the same? Think back just a few short years to when the spicy cough was all the rage. You're starting to get the link? Whether you had it or not, you had it. The diagnoses didn't matter. They were told, though you were already diagnosed. The evidence of that diagnosis didn't matter. The logic that you could bring forth to put forward your side of the argument didn't matter. So in 1973, they conducted that experiment. How much have we learned? Not much. Not much at all. I just thought one of the more interesting psychological experiments that we come across. And boy, didn't they do a heap of them. The 50s and the 60s are just full of them. Speaking of psychological experiments, I don't know how psychological this would in fact be, but it's more an exercise in compliance. I received this from the ANZ yesterday, I think. I haven't updated my details on the app. Now, my details haven't changed, so any details that the app had are correct, but for whatever reason, it wants me to go in and jump through hoops. If I don't update by March 3rd, my banking services may be impacted. Well, they may need to restrict my access. They might cease providing financial products and services altogether or prevent me from opening new products. They are telling you you would, you must, you will comply with their obligations. Now, right now, the ANZ is simply asking for me to make sure that my address is the address that I say my address is, and my phone number, I guess, and that my name hasn't changed and all that kind of crap. But if I refuse, for whatever reason, to go into the app and tick the little box that says, yes, all that's the same, or whatever, they are going to potentially restrict my services, restrict my ability to access my own money, restrict my ability to use their cards because they own the cards, not me, and maybe unplug me completely from the bank. I don't know. There was no mention of them returning any money that might be in the accounts there. I'm sure they would, because without it, that'd be theft. And I'm sure this is something that all the banks are doing. But what happens when the next letter comes out that says, we notice that you've spent X amount of thousands of dollars, you've removed it in cash, and you've put it somewhere. We require you to tell us where you've put it. Or we're going to restrict your banking services. You'll no longer be able to use us to hold whatever fiat bullshit paper product they deal in will be. Now, we'll probably say, great, thanks, piss off. But there'll be those people that will frighten the hell out of some people because they've had a bank they could rely on who was supposedly their friend all their lives. That's the only place where you could keep your money and have it be safe. And that's probably was the truth at one stage. But now the bankers have turned into the thieves. They're doing everything they can to keep your cash from you. And it won't be long before they ask you to comply with something that you don't want to comply with. That's when you probably need a fistful of Byron Bobs so that you can pay for your smalls, if you like. I think the last time I looked, each one of those Byron Bobs is worth close to $21. So walking into a little place and having breakfast where you might spend $40 to $50 for two people to have nice breakfast and coffees and a juice each, you could throw over 3 of those, include it in the tip, and by the time you've walked out the door, the bloke who you've just paid with it has made money on the deal. The silver still keeps making money. He just takes out whatever the bacon, eggs, and coffee cost him. His profit keeps making him money. That's where it's so good for traders to start trading in silver and gold. Florida have introduced it now as a legal form of trade. I think that's about the 8th or 9th, might even be more than that now, states in America who have returned to a gold and silver standard and will accept gold and silver as currency over the table. And you can do it here too. And if you've got a business, I urge you to put a sign up somewhere. I urge you to put a sign up somewhere that says, I accept silver and gold. If you want to do a trade, I'll trade silver and gold. You watch people come out of the woodwork, all right? And it's good value. Nobody's ripping anybody off here. It's good value, and it will prove to you that the alternate, I was going to say QFS, but it won't be quite like this, works. But it will be based on silver and gold. So handy little play. Handy little play. Donald Trump has officially had America exit the World Health Organization. Can I have a round of applause, please? Yay. He gave them notice a year ago and said that they would be leaving about now. And clearly he's followed through. The American people, at least the ones that are currently thinking, are very supportive of this move, and the Democrats, of course, have gone purple in the face over it, as they normally would. Of course, in Australia, the people have wanted to exit the WHO, the WEF, and the UN pretty much solidly, I believe, for the last 3 or 4 years. I think we've had an underlying social feeling of it for the last 10 or more, but I think the people's vote has swung much more in favour of getting out of all of them the last 3 to 5 years than ever before. And I think the majority of Australians want to be out of those organisations. However, we have a Labor Liberal uni party that is guaranteeing we are going to stay in those organisations until they are thrown out, until they are dismissed from power, and until someone has enough guts in power to remove us from those critical elite devices that try and exert their power across us. And that leads me into Pauline. Pauline has been saying for the last, I don't know how long, years, that should one nation ever get into power, then the first thing that she would do is remove, one nation would remove everybody, or remove Australia from the WEF, the World Health Organization, and the UN. Now, she's been consistently saying that. Now it looks like there has been a bit of support thrown behind one nation. Now it looks like there's potential for her and the party to stand up and become leaders in this nation, or at least a serious challenge for leadership in this nation. And that's making a lot of people sit up and take notice, including, I suspect, President Donald Trump, who would no doubt support some of the clear-thinking policies that Pauline Hanson and One Nation have articulated, especially recently. But all along, she's been sprouting some pretty solid crap. I beg your pardon. She's been sprouting some pretty solid information that has been termed as crap through the mainstream media. Pauline, I can't say in every case has been right, but she's certainly been right in most of them. And she was certainly right when she predicted that the Kiss My Ass song that Holly Valance wrote for their movie, a super progressive movie, would go to number 1 on the iTunes charts. And look at that. It went to Spotify number 1, went to iTunes number 1, and then Apple removed it. I'm not sure if Spotify or any of the other music things have removed it too. What they clearly don't understand is that by banning a song like that, by removing a song like that, they are simply showing themselves for what they really are, which are topics of that song. The control they want to exert, the super progressives. And the super progressives moved very hard in Melbourne to ban the movie. But it didn't work. There was such a public backlash when I think it was Crown Cinemas announced that they were cancelling the 2 showings or 2 screenings of the super progressive movie. There was such a backlash, and Pauline and the One Nation crew obviously tipped into that pretty hard as well, that all of that got wiped out. Oh, yes, okay, all right, no worries, we'll put it on. So the weak-gutted corporate Crown organisation in Melbourne nearly bowed to the super progressives of Melbourne. And let's face it, that is lefty-lovey heartland, you blue-haired, pink-nosed, bloody pierced-nosed cards. But anyway, you lost. Happily, you lost. And Pauline today put out a statement on Facebook, which I'm going to read to you here. Pardon the side of my face. This is probably not my best side, and I need a haircut, I know. All right, so here's what Pauline had to say today. under the guise of what is a major One Nation update. Thank you for your continued support. Credible national polling companies now show One Nation has overtaken the Liberal Party, with Pauline Hanson emerging as the preferred Prime Minister ahead of the Liberal leader. We're now closing the gap on Labor, and we firmly believe Australians are ready to place their trust in us rather than the radical left. This moment has been achieved because of supporters like you. Every step forward has been empowered by our grassroots movement. Thank you. In a matter of months, One Nation has gone from being a minor party to a major political force. Rapid growth brings challenges, but they are the right kind of challenges to have. One of the next major tasks before us is the federal candidate pre-selection process. We're absolutely committed to ensuring our candidates are genuinely local and deeply connected to their communities. Local branches will choose candidates. With nearly 150 branches nationwide, the challenge lies in training and resourcing each branch to confidently manage and present strong local candidates. Work on this is already underway. It's also encouraging to see branches beginning to develop policy ideas. Head Office is building a clear process for debating proposals, refining them, and putting them to a vote of our grassroots membership. Managing this at scale is complex, but again, it is a sign of a healthy and growing movement. Since the May election, One Nation has experienced membership growth of almost 600%. This far exceeded our original projections. On current figures, we expect membership growth to reach 1,000% around early May this year. The speed at which Australians are turning away from the major parties has been extraordinary. Membership cards. We're currently welcoming thousands of new members each week, often following the release of fresh polling. While this is a tremendous sign of momentum, it has delayed the issuing of physical membership cards. As a temporary measure, we'll be issuing electronic membership cards while we build a system capable of handling this unprecedented volume. We're also employing a dedicated membership officer commencing in the coming weeks, whose role will be to respond to membership inquiries and ensure every member is heard, supported, and issued their card. The role will strengthen the existing branch organiser position, which has been in place since last October. There's new merchandise on their way. Their small factory is now operating at full capacity, with a new team employed this week to clear the backlog of orders that they have. They now have over 150 federal branches established or in the final stages of establishment. That's right across the country. A new website listing each branch and its branch coordinator is currently in testing. As the growth continues, the site has needed some constant expansion, but it will be relaunched shortly. Branch meetings have also grown rapidly. Where meetings once drew 20 to 30 people, many now attract 100 to 150 people. Managing this growth will require changes, and we may need to move beyond federal electorate-based structures into more localised suburban or township groups sooner than expected. That's an interesting point. In the meantime, we ask that you continue attending branch meetings and support your branch coordinators as we train and equip them to manage larger gatherings. Please note that branches operate at a federal level. State campaign activity is separate, as different laws govern fundraising and campaigning at state and territory level. We are developing clearer guidance to support members who wish to assist in upcoming state elections, with clearer distinction between federal branches and state campaigns. Information regarding branches, including the bylaws of said branches and responsibilities, code of practice, guidebooks, and upcoming gatherings, etc., you can see in a link which I am pasting up into the chat right now. So you can see that One Nation is very definitely riding the wave. Now, that release came out late this afternoon, Queensland time. I'm not sure of the poll that they are quoting there, saying that they are now outvoting the Liberal Party, but I don't doubt it for one moment. It's been pretty clear that the Liberal Party have been committing public suicide for a while now, and the National Party saw the rope, I think, and saw the noose getting tighter and bailed. What's going on with the National Party at the moment, and I haven't found out if there's been anything significant today. I believe tomorrow there's a party room challenge happening, a spill for the national leadership. Somebody's trying to get David Littleproud out. I doubt that will happen because the real power brokers are actually with him. But that might change. Matt Canavan might come out and, well, I don't think Matt Canavan's going to come out and do anything, to be honest. He might just not vote, a bit like a lot of the Liberals chose not to do on a recent thing we were all interested in. However, the machinations of the Nationals and the Liberals, I think, superfluous to need. At the moment, it's at pure entertainment value to watch the Liberal Party cave. They don't have a leader. They've got a lady who tries hard, and I don't know the lady from Adam or Eve. She may well try hard, but she doesn't have the confidence of people in Australia. And I don't think she's going to find any way to regain that confidence anytime soon. The two pretenders to Liberal leadership, Angus, what's his name, and Andrew Hastie. I don't think Angus has the numbers. Andrew Hastie probably has the numbers for the right, the far right, and could probably take it if he had to. But then he's left with a poison chalice. And what are you going to do with a poison chalice? You're going to waste Andrew Hastie on a poison chalice, see him flogged at the next election. And who will he be flogged by? Odds are he'll be flogged by One Nation. Odds are the Liberal Party will be decimated at the next election. So too will the National Party. But I think One Nation are smart enough to realise that while there might be some potential for them to win outright in their own name, that all comes down to the amount of number one votes they get across the country. And they might have a chance of that. But to better guarantee that they have a winning position, they might need a coalition. A coalition made up of, I don't know, certain members of the Liberal and National Party who no longer agree with those people who are running those parties, who seem to have lost the vision of where those parties started and who they were started to protect and work for. The Nationals have completely forgotten their roots, as far as I'm concerned. They came from what used to be called the Country Party. Doug Anthony had been turning in his grave. The Nationals were all about protecting the interests of the man on the land, protecting the food producers of this nation, and protecting some of the biggest export industries that we had in this nation, wheat and wool. What have they done? They failed. They failed their constituents. They failed the agricultural industry. They failed the Australian people. Now, like all rats on sinking ships, these bastards are trying to find a bit of rope to run down and a bit of flotsam to float on that might save them until the One Nation boat pulls up beside them and picks them up. Well, I'm sure the One Nation boat might pick a few up, but I'm equally as sure they might leave a couple to the sharks, where they'll probably handle themselves quite well. Bastards. Speaking of bastards, Victorian police. A lot of the good Victorian police have left the Victoria Police. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. Like every other police force in this country, Victoria Police have been advertising extensively for new recruits. Please come be a copper. Come and have a life of eternal abuse and moderate training. Put yourself in physical danger. Set yourself up for PTSD for life. Come and become a police officer, where you'll be allowed to beat the shit out of certain good people and allowed to let the criminals run free. In fact, you'll be charged with helping them. Would you like that sort of a job? Well, we know that that job was offered to many, many people here in Australia, and many chose it not to accept it, but it has been taken up to the many thousands overseas that it was offered to. Yeah, you could come to Australia, jump the queue, and become a police officer. And we saw and have had many examples of some of those police officers coming into our life, particularly in Western Australia, I think.
Good lad.
Yeah, go for it. Fuck it. Yeah.
So I've needed a reason to play that for a while. Now, there's a bit of a problem. Victoria Police have got a new police commissioner. You might have heard about him. He comes from New Zealand, and in the first few weeks of the job, getting to know how things worked, he might have taken a few liberties with his rank and position. One of those happened to be using one of the Victoria Police helicopters to fly him from Melbourne to Hobart for a police commissioners meeting. He also had a bit of a problem with a whole bunch of his New Zealand police mates coming over to visit him. And he said, "Why don't you go for a flight in the chopper, boys?" And he had his wife chaperone them. Oh, it was just a training mission, an ordinary mission. The boys were going up anyway, kind of thing, but shouldn't have done it. $10,000 it cost that helicopter to fly to Hobart with the police commissioner on board. I believe he caught a commercial flight back, but the helicopter still had to fly back for $10,000, paid for by Victorians. Good on you, people. Anyway, this bloke's a Kiwi, now in charge of the Victoria Police Force. He is a Kiwi. But we have a problem. Mike Bush won't be able to hold a gun license. Why? Because he's not an Australian citizen. Albo's new gun laws? Well, every international copper who has not been given citizenship, and you watch all these citizenship ceremonies get rammed through in a real hurry, is not eligible to hold a gun license in this country. Now, yes, the government, each state government, will need to make some kind of law that's going to give them a dispensation of while they're in uniform they can carry a gun, or some other very piss poor excuse. But it just goes to show how unintended consequences can have rather good or great large effects. And of course, Albanese and his sleazy bunch of political malfeasant pricks have just laid open a huge potential legal issue for not only their government going forward, but everybody else. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of flogs, if you ask me. Victoria Police are also looking to get you to step into your new career. You'll get 9 weeks of annual leave and paid training from day one. Isn't that nice? You'll learn how to flog the people you used to like walking on the streets beside and calling your friend, and you'll learn how to flog them while wearing all the protective implements that the government can supply you. You should be very proud of yourself. I'll move on and get me started. I saw this posted up on, I think it was Facebook today. We're hearing a few rumors of a huge convoy to Canberra happening once again. Bullshit. Why? I mean, I'm all for going back if there is a reason to go back. But I'll be honest, most of us can't settle on one reason. Most of us couldn't settle on half a dozen reasons, and there are probably 100,000 reasons why we should go back. But we can't settle on one of them. we can't settle on what would be the goal of going back. What would be an acceptable outcome of going back? How long are we going back for? Until Hoodie tells us to go home and come back again in March when it's cold? We can be guaranteed the Aussie Cossack won't be there at this one. Well, unless something drastic's changed. So you won't have to worry about that input. But why? Who is trying to muster up this support for another march to Canberra, and for what friggin' reason? What are you going to do there? All you're going to do is find yourself short on toilets. Public conveniences won't be around. They're not going to lay out, rows and rows of, plastic toilets for you. You'll be pissing behind trees and doing God knows whatever else anywhere else. You're going to potentially put yourself at some physical risk from what the federal police will do to you and the protective services people could potentially do to you. And why would you do that? I'm all for putting yourself at risk. I'm all for putting myself at risk if there is a reason to do it. What's the reason we would be going back to Canberra? For what reason? And what goal is acceptable for us to then leave Canberra? What do we have to achieve before leaving? I think that's the question. If you want to go back to Canberra, I'm all for it, but why? What are you going to achieve? What can we achieve? What would be a acceptable outcome before we would leave? Would we be allowed to play Hoodoo Guru songs? I don't know that Flacco would let us. I saw this yesterday. I thought bloody hilarious. Now, some of you may not remember who Flacco is. Flacco was a very funny comedian back in the day on an ABC comedy show, which used to be very funny back in the day. Of course, the ABC is now just a fucking joke rather than supplying funny stuff. It's the joke itself, which is all good. And on that note, I'll love you and leave you. It's been a long night. It's been a longer day. And right now, if we smile politely at the world and know that the Asian markets are working their way for a few hours yet, and then the American market has started to play. You know how at the start of the show I told you it was starting to drop a bit, the price in US dollars? It's back up to $117.50 now. So the push is back on. By the time you wake up tomorrow morning, it's either going to be over $120, well over $120 an ounce American, or it might be well under 110. I'm sort of hedging towards the former between you, me, and the gatepost. If you've got some silver, folks, you've got to be smiling. And if you have the ability, go and get yourself a little bit more of it. If you haven't got any of it, folks, and you have the ability, go and get some of it. And everybody who has $50 has the ability to buy into some gold and silver in a fractional way. Ainslie Bullion, Ainslie Saver account. It's about the fourth thing across on the website. On the main menu bar, click on that, become a member, join, and start for as little as $50 and watch that grow. We are at an historic period, folks. You could put $50 in that tonight, and by the end of next week, you might have 100 or 200. By the end of the year, you might have 1,000. That's not bad for a $50 investment. You name me a bank that can do that for you. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying it could, but it can only happen if you've made that $50 investment or more to begin with. The choice is yours. I don't push you either way. I just wish you all the very best of it, and make sure that you avoid the dickheads on the roads while you're out doing the things that you do. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night. Love you all.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!